So in this segment, we're going to be discussing kind of biased. Don't want to get mugged by Luke Thomas. Kind of media journalism and kind of the stupidity around it, with the fact that you've got certain people in the media just doing absolutely terrible jobs. People that have had things briefed to them, and people who are trying to be kind of these confrontational, aggressive journalists without actually understanding how to formulate questions properly. Not saying I'm an expert in this regard, but I'd put money on the fact that I could do a much better job than some of these people. And I would say honestly, without being too arrogant, I've already done a better job than most of these people. So this clip here kind of broke me on stream, so we're going to have a listen to this and understand, like, she's obviously been briefed by someone within the Labour Party about this genius Morgan McSweeney, and has come out with this story, and it's just embarrassing.
You know, I'm told that when he was at Labour Together, when he was in opposition, his desk was absolutely overflowing with books. And he's got all these he does presentations like, you know, in David Attenborough, where there's a seal on the iceberg. And right. You think, I'm getting somewhere. You think the seal's safe because the seal's on the iceberg. And then the whales come, and one whale comes and swims around and you can't get it. And then 4 whales come and they manage to create waves, and the seal comes off the iceberg. And he shows this to Labour people and says, the Labour Party is the iceberg.
So, you know, the iceberg in this scenario is absolutely fine. It's the seal that is dead. It's going to get eaten by the whales. So the analogy should be the Labour Party is the seal, and it's still in danger because the Tories are still around. That is the analogy to go for. But, you know, that's not what she's done.
Don't be the iceberg. The Tories are coming, and he just has all of these theories like this, and he'll sort of always just say
It's not really a theory, is it? It's more an analogy. And, you know, the fact that she's reading off notes here it's pretty bad to come up with such a dumb story in this situation.
The Labour Party's the fucking iceberg, and he'll always say things like, you know, Labour need to learn to cry alone, because he says if Tories are sad, they'll go and sit in a room and drink a bottle of whiskey.
I mean, no, they'll go brief the Telegraph. That's what they'll do, or they'll leak secrets. Looking at you, the man with the tarantula. So that's not even true, the idea that the Tories kind of cry alone. If anything, you're not going to get problems solved by crying alone. All you're going to do is sink yourself into a greater depression. You know, like, we saw endless kind of briefings against each other, you know, from the Tories. We saw Rishi Sunak's American green card leaked by someone within the Tory cabinet at the time. This idea they cry alone, no, they stab each other in the back openly.
Whereas Labour go out and talk about their problems. Labour need to learn to cry alone.
There is nothing wrong with going out to people and talking about whatever issues there are in the party. That's how you actually get things resolved. That's the secret. That's how you actually understand the problem and you understand how to resolve things, rather than crying alone, because crying alone solves nothing. All you do is make a problem worse. You know, I get what they're trying to say. You know, they're trying to say, like, oh, Labour will go cry to journalists or whatever. But it's like, if you work at something collaboratively, that's how you actually get solutions. Try it sometime.
And he's sort of, like, for example, when he ran Keir Starmer's leadership campaign, he took every single person that worked on it afterwards and did an exit interview with them, which is really unusual for politics. He sort of has these things that he will think about, work out, very data-driven, very research-led, and things that people would do in businesses, and do those. Like, I mean, an exit interview doesn't sound very, very unique as an idea, but in politics it sort of is, and that's the kind of thing that he does.
So he makes bad analogies, has a desk that's really disorganised, and does exit interviews. Okay.
Things differently, or at least tries to do things differently to get a result.
What they need is political direction. And I suppose what has been lacking in this government so far has been a clear sense of what Starmer wants and what he wants.
When we look at the fact that Morgan McSweeney was the campaign director for Keir Starmer during the election, we saw a very directionless Labour. In terms of what they were actually do, you know, implement policy-wise. There wasn't a lot there. It was very vague on certain things. You know, apart from kind of the fiscal rules and stuff, they were very vague on a lot of issues. And so that kind of vagueness is still there, and that was done by Morgan McSweeney. And it's still kind of vague now. When you look at the fact that he's talking about putting the Labour Party on a campaign footing, like, their campaign's over, G. You won. The campaign was in the election. Now it's time to govern. You know, in about 4 years' time, when the election's about to come back up again, when you're about a year out, maybe a year and a half out, that's when you put the party back on a campaign footing.
Wants to achieve, and that therefore maybe a more political chief of staff for this Prime Minister is a better fit.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, but I think at the moment I think the thing of we build people up. It happened with Sue Gray.
It's what the media love doing. The English media love building people up and then tearing them down. They love it. They can never get enough of it.
She had this 6-month notice period or 6-month gardening leave period, and everyone in the Labour Party was thinking, this is just brilliant, we've done it. And it didn't work. And I think part of it is just thinking that this person is going to solve all of their problems. And Labour has had a really difficult first 100 days. And now...
And, Morgan McSweeney was a part of that. So clearly the Messiah man not doing a great job.
And Morgan's come in, and everyone you speak to just...
Oh, Morgan, we're on a first name basis.
Says, well, isn't this brilliant? I mean, a Labour MP said to me earlier, it's sort of like everyone is acting like Messiah has come. And
that's really weird phrasing for a start, but also the fact that you won on like 36% of the vote. Like, you can argue he triangulated very aggressively and that's why you won, but you also ran a really awful campaign, a really, really bad campaign. And you can argue about the strategy and triangulation, all of this kind of stuff, but there's not much longevity in the style you've gone on, especially when there are going to be a lot of pro-EU people that won't vote Labour for this time. And there'll be a lot of people, I think, that have forgotten how bad the Tories were in about 4 or 5 years' time as well. If the Tories had picked someone like, not Jenrick, Tugendhat or Cleverly, I think Labour would have been in far more trouble. It's a results-based game. If Labour don't deliver, it doesn't matter how good an operator Morgan McSweeney is. They don't last.
And I just don't know whether that is going to work. Maybe it will. Maybe he is a genius. Maybe he's a campaigning electoral genius. But is it the same thing as being a brilliant chief of staff? We don't know yet. And
this is the same stuff they were saying about Dominic Cummings. He's a genius, or he's data-driven, all of this stuff. And in the end, he lost a briefing battle with Carrie Johnson, Johnson's wife. So, I don't know how smart Morgan McSweeney is, but I imagine he'll probably go down a similar route where he'll just cause lots of internal trouble, and that's what's going to do him in the end. So you can see here kind of this kind of glazing of Morgan McSweeney. It's just crazy to me. There's more. I saw this tweet and I was like, bro, what are you doing? What is going on? You got this analysis from Kay Burley saying, striding determinately towards me, hand stretched out to offer a firm eye contact handshake, Lord Cameron cuts a powerful image as he arrives for our interview. I first met him as a friendly, fresh-faced MP when he was put forward by the government in 2005 election campaign to hold the party line on a myriad of topics. You can see here that these people have no intent to hold anyone accountable here. He talks about a warm smile spread across Lord Cameron's face as I shared the recollection with him. That faded into watery-eyed steel as we discussed the desperate loss of his son Ivan, who died when he was just 6 years old. We touched on many emotions, considered politician when discussing Israel. Polite stonewalling for who he wants to win the Tory leadership election. A useful lack of recall on whether he really did tell Boris Johnson, I will F you up forever, over his stance on Brexit. Well, he never did. He resigned. Boris Johnson won that one. So this is just embarrassing. This is a so-called journalist talking about a former politician who argued that he was ready to put sanctions on certain Israeli cabinet ministers but didn't, and then was trying to flame David Lammy over it when it's like, bro, you were there not long ago. You should have done something if you want to do something. Crazy business. This Laura Kuenssberg, just awful journalism. As much as I hate wedge streeting, and I'll be doing a separate video on wedge streeting, this kind of take on how come you haven't solved the crisis within the NHS. And Labour have, they are privatising more parts of the NHS, so that's factually true. But to come down this argument about why haven't you fixed NHS dentistry is just crazy to me.
Okay, but I want to get
fix the foundations of our public
services.
But
our audience wants to hear how you're getting on with these specific promises.
Yeah,
so that was just one of them we've dealt with. So another one was 700,000 extra dental appointments. How have you got on with that? Because we've checked with the British Dental Association. They've said there's been no progress and there can't be any progress till you sort out their contract.
I think it's a fair challenge to say we're not going to fix NHS dentistry without fixing the contract. We got them in, as I promised, the Monday after the general election. I can't promise to fix 14 years of NHS crisis in 3 months or even one budget, one spending review. But we have hit the ground running.
But you did promise our viewers there would be 700,000 more appointments. So by when?
Well, I don't want to get...
I don't want to use this defence. They've not been there for long. This contract renewal phase will take a long time, and there'll be a lot of negotiating over it because there aren't many NHS dentists left. A lot of them have gone private. So they're going to have to come up with some sort of offer to kind of the dentist industry or whatever, the profession, in order to kind of change that. That's what they're going to have to do. So, this argument is kind of is nonsensical to me. What she should be focusing on is, what are you going to do to look at the crisis that's going to happen, the winter crisis that's going to happen this year, because it's already starting in certain hospitals, and we're only in October. That's the line she should be going down. Attacking them over dentistry, like, I understand people are concerned about it because it's very expensive. If you don't have an NHS dentist, they'll rob you blind for money. These private dental practices, because they can charge insane prices. But this idea that Labour are going to sort this out so quickly, it's just crazy to me. And I don't want to be one of those ones who defends West Streeting, but Laura Kuenssberg is that bad. She's got me defending West Streeting. And our kind of final clip here, this is about how the BBC has dealt with kind of interviews and trying to protect Israel from accusations.
Right to defend itself. That was the editorial line.
So this is a BBC whistleblower on how it's kind of how the BBC presents things in interviews.
That was drilled into us, into all of our coverage. It was really an integral part of the editorial stance. To a guest talking about, Israeli airstrikes killing Palestinians in Gaza, that would be the response from our presenters.
Denying access to food is collective punishment, and that we should all be clear in saying that.
Israel will argue, obviously, that it has a right to defend itself. People were
even though that gentleman is right, that is a war crime. Collective punishment is a war crime.
Terrified of using the word genocide in coverage. They still are. You will very rarely see it in any BBC coverage. And if an interviewee says the word genocide...
This is a genocide happening in front of our eyes.
That word is, as you know, incredibly emotive, and the Israelis, as you know, will be saying that they are targeting Hamas only.
The presenter will almost always panic.
The Labour Party, of all political parties, which has always had a strong peace contingent within it, is now actually supporting genocide.
OK, if we can maybe just avoid that language, if that's OK.
Avoid that language for what? And that's what I'm saying. Like, this is what you call client journalism. Here, you've got a person who's obviously had press briefings from someone in McSweeney's team, most likely, about how cool and how great he is, and now she's trying to kind of gas him up in the media and say he's some sort of mad genius, so that maybe more Labour MPs who might watch this clip might think, Morgan's the man, he's got a plan, etc. Embarrassing. This one here about Lord Cameron, Jesus Christ, man. This is embarrassing. Like, I don't think Cameron's wife would even say such nice things, or even his kids would say such nice things about him. Jesus. And then you've got this one here, Laura Kuenssberg, just trying to be an aggressive, confrontational journalist and just kind of fumbling it because she doesn't know what questions to ask in order to pick holes in West Streeting. So she's basically giving him an easy time here because, again, that contract, that kind of conversation around dentistry contracts will take a while. It's going to be incredibly expensive to resolve because, again, a lot of the dentists have gone private because there's more money in it. And then the final clip here is the BBC playing defence for Israel. It's almost like an instinct response, like as soon as you hear the word genocide or something that's really accusatory of Israel, you got to shut it down real fast and say, on the other hand, this. I never saw them do that for Palestinians or people in Lebanon or a lot of other countries, to be honest with you. Could you imagine if they did this for Russia? If someone said, Russia committing war crimes or whatever, or if someone was trying to back up Ukraine and then they said, in Russia's defense, they would say this isn't an invasion of Ukraine, this is a special military operation. Could you imagine how stupid you'd sound if someone actually said that to you? It's crazy to me how bad kind of the state of journalism in Britain is just abysmal. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.